There we go. If anybody pops in, we can just add them.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. I do see some new faces, so I think if we just go around again and introduce everybody once again. My name is Mike Harris. I live in Quebec. I was asked to be chairman of the board. I'm not really sure what I was thinking when I said yes, but we'll see where this goes.
We go this way? Sure. I'm Michaela Richardson. I am the secretary of the board, and I live in Sangerville.
Brian Campbell, board member, been with a while, long time.
Jason Greenlaw, co-chair, been with a while, long time, but not as long as Brian.
Younger.
I'm Angie Snow. I live here in Dover, and I'm the treasurer.
I'm Steph Perkins, board member.
Yep.
Yes, and swim coach.
Yep.
I'm running some pooling. I live right here in Dover, Foxcroft. I've been with the Y for about 8 years and a board member. So.
I'm Chris Kluge. I live in Foxcroft, and I'm a guest member of the board.
Yes, you are.
Dan Steinke. Been with the board longer than you guys. No, except for Dick, probably.
I'm Dick Sweat. I'm presently a member of the transition team.
Jeff Cross. I don't log anything.
Excellent.
Just here. You're a floater.
There
Jeff-
is some online members, I think. Ben Cabot.
Did Ben make it in?
I don't know. I can't read that.
Yep, I'm right here. I
All right.
joined by phone. Hi,
Oh,
guys.
hang on. Let me turn it up, Ben.
Also, Mark Poulin is part of the board. I don't know if he's on yet or going to make it today.
Mark Poulin? Not yet. And Brandon Young's in there too.
And Brandon Young. So welcome to the second meeting of the operations board. Michaela, did everybody get Michaela's secretary report? You sent it to the whole board?
Yes.
So that was just a update of the first meeting that we had. Everybody got a email on the agenda, so we'll just run down through that. The first one we'll start off with is the reopening timeline and the transition. I know they had a meeting in Old Town last week. We can just get an update from Amanda on that to see where we stand, or whoever else was there.
Yep. So just got a letter from Jason this morning. The letter of intent is almost finalized and should be signed this week. Then we will have 45 days of due diligence and a closing in 60 days. So February 1st reopen looks good for now. They are going to try and justify taking money from the endowment to cover losses, but we are prepared to push back hard on that. Final nonprofit paperwork should be filed soon, and hoping Susan Collins' office can push through approval quickly. Plan on opening the entire facility, including the pool, on day 1. Hiring and accounting structure needs to be in place by January 1. Hiring and managing the director is up to the operations board. Best of luck. An advisory board will be involved in the building and endowment and committees. And it says, I'd like to convert part of the pickleball this spring. I'll figure out how to get it paid for, no expense. And I have that here. Well, that's on the agenda. Operations board should have a vote in the minutes approving leadership and committee chairs. Bylaws are almost ready for review, and I'll send out soon.
That was from Jason.
That's from Jason. Yep.
Should we back up a minute and accept the meeting, the board meeting?
Yeah.
Minutes?
So everybody's had a chance to look at Michaela's notes from the first meeting. So if we just someone want to make a motion to.
I move to accept the minutes.
Motion's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes from meeting 1. All those in favor?
Hi. Victoria. She eyed.
I'm en route. I just didn't want to miss anything.
No, thank you.
Okay, so we've had the reopening timeline update. How about the pickleball court?
Yep. So Jason brought in this fancy diagram here. He'd like to do some updates on the pickleball courts outside in the yard. The first thing would be removing this 6-foot fence here that separates, and then using that 6-foot fence to separate 1, 2, 3 courts where we only have 2 that are like here and here now. He's talking to a few people about getting it painted and getting the top fixed and all that, and then putting an 8-foot fence around the perimeter of the whole thing so that people can use it and we can do tournaments and collaborate with community fitness. And I think it could bring in some revenue plus more membership, getting people in there. Any questions or opposition to
your budget on that?
So he says he wants to try and figure out how to fund it so it will not be cost anything to PACC.
Amanda, those the courts The paved courts.
So these are the pickleball courts here that we have now. So there's like one here and like one here, and then this is the basketball courts over there.
Basically, we
I'm
don't
just
have an
showing them
estimate
on
on
the
it.
computer.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
So there's no estimate on how much that might cost yet.
No estimate on what it'll cost, but it's not going to cost us anything. So I am for it.
I move to accept the idea.
Motion has been moved to accept the idea of the pickleball court.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, and you're saying that it'll be paid for by some other ways. Could you elaborate on that?
Nope, not really. Jason said, I'll figure out how to get it paid for, no expense to the PACC. I like that.
Right. And if he ever wants to contact me, I'm happy to sponsor that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yep.
Howdy.
Good morning.
Good
How are
morning. So
you?
motion-
You made it.
Motion's been moved and seconded to accept the pickleball court request at no cost to the PACC. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mark, we just need to back up a little bit. We had a vote before you come in. There'll be no Red Sox attire on the operation. You and Jason need to set the back room.
Yeah, okay. Mark, there's a debate later.
Let me guess, you would wear Yankees.
It was almost made mandatory.
It was close.
Okay, so we can move on to the mission statement. I think Amanda set out what she had written up for the mission statement.
Yep. And really that is just so that we can kind of get things finalized and stuff. In the mission statement that we currently have, it's to promote health and well-being of the people of the Piscataquis area in a fiscally responsible and fully transparent manner, which is fine. And if everybody wants to keep that, that's also fine. Or I put out some suggestions, just thoughts that I had and other people kind of talking. I don't care if we move on that today or if everybody wants a chance to look through it and think on it. And
Can we table that? Because I couldn't open your thing.
oh yeah.
And then I sent the request to share and it still didn't come. So
Oh
no,
okay.
it was a,
I think I hit approve.
You couldn't get it either. No,
I hit approve on your request.
I don't know how to. And I don't know how to.
Fair enough. All right, so I will
Can I just
pull
swing
it
it
and I
out?
can just send it an email. We can
So
pull
due to
it.
some technology difficulties through the older generation.
Old
in the
guy.
room, Mr. Greenlaw, that is.
That's fair.
We'll table the mission statement for now.
That's fair. And then,
All right, we'll move on to permission to move forward with wellness living.
so that's the computer system that we're going to be needing. That used to be like the DAXCO, so tracking membership and finances and all of those things. The first 2 months are going to cost us right around $100 a month, and then after that, it's going to be right around I think it was $397. That was the initial thing that I sent out to everybody. I sent it to the finance committee. They looked it over. Megan had a bunch of thoughts and feelings and questions and got all those answered. So if everyone's good with that, I'd like to hit go so we can start building that program so that hopefully in January we can start taking members.
I make a motion to accept what Amanda just said.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to proceed with the wellness living software. I assume it's the software program.
Yes.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then part of the permissions to move forward is the passport. I assume that's the keyless entry.
Yes, that's a 24-hour access. That was about $3,000 upfront cost. And then the monthly broke down on that was just over $100 a month for that. That gives us the 24-hour access to the facility. There will be some additional expense with cameras, but it'll have to be approved. Jonah Orff, who's not here today because he's on vacation. Did he make it in?
Yeah.
He said he could help us get the equipment that we need at cost as soon as we know exactly what we need for equipment.
Perfect. Super.
How's maybe that's more of a Jonah question, but like the wireless cameras now, they're pretty inexpensive for setups.
I don't know the answer to that. I think the only one we're actually going to need that might cost some money is right at the front door because this passport system does what's called the piggyback. And so like if Remington comes in, it's going to see that one person beeped in, one person came in. It doesn't do the facial recognition was like $5,000 additional plus extra monthly money. But then if he comes in and like 3 people sneak in behind him and don't beep in, it's going to say there were 4. So then you can pull up your camera and say, okay, we had 4 come in and only 1, see who it was. Like Remington, hey, you let these guys in, you have to be more careful shutting the door. Or, hey, don't want your buddies in it for free. No, you can't.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only one that we'll need that's expensive.
Yeah.
But inside the building, I think we can get away with like blinks or Nest or what.
Nest.
Jonah's he's the tech guy.
Any more discussion on the passport system?
I got a little suggestion. I've been going up to go, but that system seems to work fine up there.
Awesome.
So it shouldn't be a real issue.
Is that a similar type system? I'm not familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
similar idea. This one will have a barcode so that you can, like, people can either use the app on their phone to scan in, or they can get a physical barcode card.
Any more discussion on the passport?
This is Ben Cabot. Amanda, is that also something that you are hoping to have in place for day one?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, that's awesome. And also, I just wanted to mention that Michaela has my proxy vote, so I just told her to vote with her on everything. So just so that's clear for the record.
Fair enough.
Any more discussion? Anybody online with any discussion on the passport system? Jonah, anything you want to chime in?
No, I was starting to type. The only thing I was going to mention with camera systems is I always recommend wired cameras if you absolutely can. I mean, due to the fact you have to run power to them anyways, and most of these systems you can power all at one box. So if you have a battery backup system on that box, then you're, of course, covering the fact that if power goes out and if anything happens. But for that front door, like Amanda said, they probably have a specific camera they use for that piggyback system. Otherwise, if there's a sensor that just noticed as, hey, 4 people went through, of course, we could put any camera there.
Okay.
Thank you, Jonah. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close discussion. I need a motion for the passport.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the passport system. All those in favor?
Aye.
So Wellness Living passport has moved forward. Amanda, you want to tell us about the printer?
Yep. So there is a current printer there with a contract. I don't know. It is in the Piscataqua Regional YMCA's name. I don't know if they are terminating the contract, paying off the contract. I received a call just before the building closed down that they'd asked about the payoff. It's not our contract technically, so I don't know where that stands. As it works right now, it's very expensive. It's 5 cents per color copy and 0.0079 for black and white, plus I think it's $2.79 a month, plus like $13 a month for a maintenance fee, and that expires in July. So that much of the contract is left. I found this new company down in Southern Maine, and they can do. I'll send this to Jonah too, but their current printer is a color A3 copier. It's going to be, hang on, that was the current, just kidding. This one is a 60-month all-inclusive contract at $350 per month. So that's all inclusive. That it says unlimited printing, no overages, no increases of term of contract. So that includes all the parts, labor, and supplies, excluding the paper. Our printer bill was running anywhere, and I have a spreadsheet, anywhere from about $600 a month to like $700 a month, depending on how much I was printing, because I do the 2,000 flyers every other week for the schools.
What's the name of the company it's not to?
This one is Connected Office Technologies in Portland, Maine, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
When I get to the office, we have Transco, the
Okay.
store,
That's what we used to.
and I think it's $130 a month. And
Okay.
They take care of everything.
The toners and everything.
Toners.
So I think
I can second the Transco. We used to use that at Mayo Hospital, and we never had any issues with them.
I would know, and Michaela would probably be the best person to give us an update, but I think Transco's customer service may be kind of declining a little bit, and I think also their pricing can be kind of astronomical for something like that. $350 a month sounds pretty cheap to me, but I don't know. We're shopping.
Yep. Okay. So I will table that one, and I'll do more homework. It's nothing that we need to rush on. So we'll reach out to Transco, because that was the big printer, which honestly, when we reset, I'd like to put that out back. And then out front for the girls, they have just a small, like 60-month for $35 a month, just a plain Jane, but it still includes all the parts, labor, supplies for $35 a month. And you can have 100 of those $35 a month ones if that's what you want. But then the big one for doing the big print jobs with flyers and brochures and things like that. But I will reach out to Transco, so we'll table that one till next time.
I can pass on our contact if you want.
Yeah.
He does,
It's probably the same guy.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay.
He does right
I
here,
know.
so. No, I can give you his number.
Thank you.
So we're gonna table the printer until we get some more information.
Yeah, nope, that's good. We'll do more homework.
Phone system.
So that one, I don't really know what to do. Kind of looking towards you guys, because right now we have Spectrum and it does the internet and the phone. I know we have 2 phone lines, but one you can't call out on because it's just for the fire
Alarm. Yeah.
alarm. Needing 2 lines would be ideal. I do have a cell phone with a number on it for the PACC right now. I just added it to my policy. It's like $25 a month. And I know that there's programs where you can do cell phones where you just like have an app on phones and you can send it to people's extensions and it rings through their personal cell phones as this company. So I'm just I'm looking for.
So, Amanda, with that, if you can figure out how many active lines you're going to have, if you want voicemail or any kind of, press 1 to leave a mailbox message for Amanda or whatever. If you can kind of give me a little write-up of what you're thinking, I can go over what typical phone systems do. I think getting just a basic Spectrum 1 or 2 line, I think you'll find that that's a hassle, but I don't think we have to go crazy with it either.
Okay.
What about the new fiber, whatever it is in town?
Oh yeah. I forgot.
You talking about Fidium?
Yeah.
So I know that they give you the internet access, but you can get phone access through, cloud-based systems, whether it's like Microsoft Teams or, big systems, call centers. Ubiquiti has their own on-prem phone system, but we really got to find out, do they need a solid line for like a main number? Do they have any need to have, 2 or 3 other mailboxes, if you will? And if I can get a picture of that, I can do some research and help Manda with that.
Okay, maybe once we can get into the building, we can do that as part of our due diligence, Jonah.
Okay, but you said right now the fire alarms are currently set to your local Spectrum connection, or they would be.
Yeah, they're on one of the. Well, I think so.
One of the systems is gonna have to be dedicated to the fire alarm system.
Yes, you always have to have one line for that and or elevators.
So if Joan and Amanda, you want to work on that?
Sure.
We table that so we get some more information.
Due diligence day. Okay.
Payroll.
Yep, I would like permission to move forward with that as soon as we get it figured out. We've already met with Bangor Payroll and we've met with iSolve. Both seem like good solutions. I'm meeting with Community Connections. We've just been playing phone tag for like 5 days, so I'm calling him this afternoon to get some pricing there.
Have you talked with Mike Sutton?
No, but I didn't get good vibes about paychecks from everybody, so I didn't.
We use paychecks.
We use
and,
paychecks.
And,
Okay.
and really, I mean, it's so
easy.
right on your phone. You check in on your phone. Everything's on the phone. Even so,
These other ones are too. So
Yeah.
I think it's beneficial having Mike as part of the PACC that he would take very good care of.
Okay.
That's what I found with paychecks.
all right, so I will make sure that we get there. So I'm going to table that till the next meeting then.
I think it's worth a conversation with Mike to.
Yep, I think so too. So like, because Bangor Payroll was they were very slow to be like, oh, I'd be careful with that one. And then when I talked to the iSolve guy, he was like, paychecks. He's like, that's probably like out of all of them, like they don't do. So
You can remember they're all trying to sell the same thing.
yeah, oh yeah. No, I hear you. And I've been doing the Bangor Payroll with Nancy, and she didn't seem excited about paychecks either. But we will investigate, and I will get.
Yeah, I think it's worth a conversation with Mike.
Okay. Yep. No, that's fair. So I'm gonna table that until the next meeting because I don't want to make a decision.
All right. PACC invoice.
Yes, so that's the fitness equipment that I was talking about, all the gray fitness equipment that we have in the center. Prior to leaving, I had gone through and made a list, reached out to BACCA directly, and it's $781.08. Before we just pay it, obviously, I'd like to see if we can just agree that Remington can go in, look at this, make sure this is what we actually need. And if there's other things that we need, maybe add it to this. But if he can just be able to make that call, it should be less than $1,000, I think, once we get there. But then that way we're not trying to wait for a board meeting and get a vote once we get in there and decide that he's right.
I don't know. So all the,
So the Cybex is the white equipment, the really, really old stuff that it's really at the end of its life. The BACC is the gray equipment, like all the cable machines.
Oh, yeah.
So this
Okay.
includes like,
I was thinking, 'cause a couple of ellipticals were.
yeah, those are touch and go too,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
this is just the cable equipment. It's cables, pads, and a few like odds and end pieces that were just in disrepair.
Yeah.
And it's not a significant cost, and I think it'll really make a huge difference in that room.
Now, is there a plan to move forward with newer stuff in the future
Not yet,
with anything?
but I want to. So that was another, conversation that we've had when I met with the finance committee. I asked very directly about the cotton fund and using that money for things other than just the fitness center. And, they've kind of justified it like, well, we have to have electricity if we're going to run the fitness center, and we have to have the heat to run the fitness center. And I agree with that. But at the same time, like, I think if they're going to be specific about what we use that for, we can make a request to use that money for something else. But I think that us making that decision is irresponsible. And when they'll obviously have to rewrite their letter to us, because it's not to the PACC, it's to the Piscataquis YMCA. So depending on what they agree with that money, if they only want that money to go towards the fitness center, I think that's a huge opportunity to do upgrades in there. And then we need to figure out what we're going to do to make up the difference on the other side with that money. But I think just using that money how we see fit is not responsible.
So you want Remington to go in and look at this equipment? Are we purchasing the equipment, or are we?
So nope. So this is just a list of repairs for the BATCA equipment that we already have. We do have some white Cybex pieces that we've had a few members come in and like build cables for them, which is probably not safe. And
But it worked.
like they're beyond the end of their life. They're not serviceable. They're from the early 90s and they have a 5-year life expectancy. So
they have all this stuff.
this is all like ready to go, orderable right from BATCA.
I don't think we want to be pulling the trigger on the order or anything until
I agree with
we
that.
have. I mean,
No, I think this list that he has, like what I'm asking for approval for him is like under $1,000. Like go through this list. If there's like bars and stuff that I don't know are missing, because that room that might as well be the Apollo space station. I know.
I mean, when are we gonna have access to the building?
Hopefully as soon as the letter of intent is signed, because then we have 45 days for due diligence.
Okay.
And so that's when I'd like to get him in there to make that decision so we can get this ordered.
That
So-
makes more sense.
Okay, sorry.
Discussion on that? Any motions on that?
So move.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to, on the back invoice for Remington to go in once we have access to the building. Roughly $781. Any more discussion? Seeing none, a call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Asked. Next item on the agenda is membership levels, and we discussed this a little bit at the first meeting, but Amanda can fill us in on.
Yeah, so changing the way that we structure how we're charging members. Let me just pull it up real quick. And I just want permission so that we can start planning that for because in the wellness website, I'm going to have to structure all of that as we're building that part of it. So getting the approval on that would be awesome. Hang on one second. Where are you?
So this is just approval for you to design the level of memberships that you would like to see.
Yeah, and I did meet with Megan Holmes on it, and so we went over it together. But any thoughts and feelings on it? Like, so we've got the bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and I'd like to add, somebody else had a suggestion to add a diamond membership. The bronze, just access to fitness center locker room. Silver is bronze, courts, and wellness classes. Gold, silver, and open swim, plus the levels before, sorry. And then the platinum is the gold, adding child watch to your membership during wellness classes, and you get a free locker. And then the diamond is just kind of like an exorbitant, like $200 or $250 a month, but you get your name on the wall. So it's more of a donation membership. Like you get access to all the above, plus you get your name on the wall because you just are doing a donation, essentially. If everyone's okay with that. That's all priced based on the like pricing around the area, keeping discounts for students, veterans, service workers, and seniors. And then also offering a scholarship program that's very transparent and very direct based on income levels.
That brings up another question with regards to giving, because I'd like an opportunity to talk about giving at the end of this. But initially, when the Y started, if you were giving a lot of a large amount of money, then kind of like that diamond level, you got benefits as part of that. The YMCA then said, no, you can't do that. It's got to be separate. So there was a situation where you had obviously people giving a lot of money, were getting benefits, and also at the same time were deducting it, okay? Because you were getting it, but you had a benefit of having it. YMCA then said, no, you can't do that at all. So I don't know the legalities of that at all, but again, that's something we are going to be talking about because I'm going to be looking to get some major donations. Where do they stand with regards to utilizing the community center?
Okay.
In other words, saying like, oh, because it's a nonprofit, can we do this sort of a thing? Is that what
I think you'd have to write your bylaws. I mean, because you're going to write new bylaws, new policies, new procedures, right? So
I just don't know.
Not being an accountant, so, we should, but being very, knowledgeable in the nonprofit sector, usually if you're doing something where you're getting something back, a portion of your giving is only a portion of your giving is tax deductible. So if the equivalent membership is worth $100 a month and you're giving $200 a month, you get to deduct 100. And then, and the other 100 is your membership.
Yeah.
That's how, if you look at places like, the big NPR, telethons and that sort of stuff, and you get a tote bag for $50, they'll say, sure, you gave $50, $25 is
That's your tax deduction.
Right. So, then how much that is. And then there's, I believe, a couple extra hoops to show that you are using that money correctly, that's going, but that should be something an accountant can handle. And it should not be a problem so long as we are clear to the donor members and we are clear in accounting how that gets handled.
I think that makes sense.
That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
One person that may be worth consulting is Claire Lazat, because she's got special access to some pretty high level accounting resources, and that may be something that she could direct us in the right way. And I think as far as you're concerned, Dan, with the tiering system, my guess, without knowing anything really, but based on everything else I've heard about the YMCA organization, I would bet almost anything that was strictly something that the Y said you can't do it. I can't see any reason why a private organization like ours, not for profit or otherwise, why you couldn't set up something like that where the more you are contributing, the more you have access to. I mean, that certainly is, I think, within the scope of, what the general kind of idea is.
And again, but the deductibility portion, that makes
Sure. Who knows? I'd be the last person to ask on that.
That's fair.
I heard you mention observation of your children at a certain giving level, certain membership level, while you're using Y facilities. I assume there's going to be a separate discussion on general child care.
Yep.
Facility, which would be separate from membership levels.
Correct. Yes. So Brandon's actually on here. He's one that I've talked to. His wife has an in-home daycare right now, and they are looking to move into a facility. And so she'd be a wonderful candidate to put in there. I just sent out the initial reach out to her. So last year we lost $28 on childcare after hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work, life-consuming work. So leasing it out is profit, period.
Yeah.
So having childcare would be a real big issue in our community.
Absolutely. And so with someone, good morning, Kathy. So with someone stepping in and just taking over that portion of it, they can offer all-day childcare, which is something we couldn't do before. So they could have childcare during the day, and then they could have after-school care, summer camp care, and then we've even talked about doing in the evenings. Even if we don't have the childcare facility necessarily doing the child watch, we can have programs available. So we can have a youth program person there that's got a plan for every day of the week. Hey, on Mondays, if you're here for the wellness classes, your kids get to play Legos. And on Tuesdays, if you're here, they get to do Play-Doh. So I think there's two different ways we can make the child watch work.
Yeah. which brings up the next thing in terms of insurance. That's the other thing I'm on with regards to if we lease out, that great. But now in the evening, if you bring a kid in, is that going to trigger us? And that's a question.
So with our licensor last year, it got a little bit gray, so we made it very clear. So like if the kids were in childcare and they wanted to come to Lego Club, we went to childcare. We had permission slips from the parents. We signed the child out of childcare, signed them into Lego. If Lego finished before the parents got there, we brought them back to childcare and signed them in. Yep. So programming and childcare are two completely separate things, as long as it doesn't get into that like more than 4 hours a day.
Right. Right.
Then it gets gray.
So let's go back to the membership levels and
Yep.
she's
Thanks.
asked for permission to proceed with the membership levels.
Move forward some more, yeah. With the diamond.
Yeah,
With the
I'd like to do that. Yeah. I'll
So
second.
motion's been made and seconded to move forward with the membership levels with the diamond level added to it. Any more discussion on that?
My only question is with the diamond level is you want to make sure that diamond level is done for a year, because somebody might come in and say, you go put the name on the wall for 1 month.
Yeah, oh yes.
See what I'm saying? And
Yep.
then
And that's going to
Yeah.
be part of the fundraising plan too. Like even when we do the banners, like the banners are amazing, but if they sit there for 10 years, it doesn't help anybody. Talking to Matt Spooner about that, he does a 1 year or 3 year contract on all of them. And at the end of your contract, your banner comes down, you're welcome to have it, but that's the end of it.
Just one question about the tiers when you're putting them together in the child watch part. I was specifically asked if I could mention this today. Say someone doesn't pay for the tier that includes the child watch, is that something that could be added on? Is that just like, could that be a general add-on for somebody if they decided that they wanted to try a class or something?
Yep. And so I think, yes. So in my plan, I have anybody that's a member that wants to use something outside of their like pay tier. It's $5 per thing you want to do. So if you want to go to Open Swim, but you won't have access to the fitness center, it's $5. If you're not a member and you're just a guest and you want to do any of these add-ons, it's $10. So I think the same would make sense for the child watch. Like if they were coming in and they were a member, $5. If they're not a member,
It's like a Chinese menu.
yeah. Yeah. We have a Chinese. It's a D3.
Any more discussion on the membership levels? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. We'll move on to programming.
My biggest question with programming is everybody kind of knows what we were offering prior to. If you've had a chance to look at the business plan, like that's my thoughts on what we would do for programming. So if anyone has additional suggestions, things they don't want to see happening in the building or that you want to bring in, I'd love to know, because I'd like to set up, instead of doing 8 weeks sessions like we were before, which got very convoluted sometimes, just do monthly. And if a sport lasts for 2 months, it can be 2 months, but the 8 weeks that start on the 16th of the month and end on, it was so much work to keep track of that and planning. So I'd like to move forward with a monthly programming schedule, and then anything like that other people want to see. Yes.
So sorry.
Nope.
So it would just be month to month and then no off week in between. Because I think that threw a lot of people off too.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think we have February, and if we have like times where we're not going to have programming, that's fine. But with a public calendar and with the new program, like you'll also be able to see like, hey, it's Thanksgiving break, so there's nothing here. The PACC is closed. It's like calling your husband your boyfriend's name. It's terrible. But so I think so, yeah. But I think that break week was nightmarish, especially like when you got into swim lessons and you got into like youth sports. And
So as part of the programming, I know like the hockey, they have an app that every parent has a copy of the app.
Is it Team Reach or is it?
I don't know what it is. That's way above my
Okay.
pay grade. My wife is.
Fair.
But I know like the game time changed this morning, and they just send it out on that, and it goes right to your account.
Okay, I can check with Lucas and see what they're using.
I think it would be something to look into as far as coordinating with parents for the program.
Okay, nope, I like that.
Sports Engine.
What?
Sports Engine is what Jonah said.
Sports Engine. Okay, thank you, Jonah. He's a hockey dad. And the tech guy. Okay, got that.
Any other discussions on programming?
Anything that was happening that you hated or things that you really want in there? Okay.
All right, Founder's Wall.
That is more of a Dr. Stanky thing, just something we've been throwing around.
So, as we all know, and it's a major, major part of this, is that this organization cannot survive, like the Y couldn't survive without donors. And what made the Y back in the day was that hardwood, I'm going back a little bit history here. Hardwood Products, Guilford Industry, Pride Manufacturing put in a lot of dollars, like $100,000 a year. They put in a lot of money, and that's what really made us be able to make the Y and keep it going. But then when they changed hands and things changed by us losing that monies, that was a real part of when we really starting to struggle. And so we're not going to go there again. What I've taken on with Dick is that we're going to get called the Founders Wall, is that 5-year pledges of donations from area businesses, people, and talking to Jason and Manda to have plaques on the wall and have different levels. And it would be based on a 5-year pledge, not just 1 year. So if somebody does it, you could always add people, and then if they drop off their donation, they can be taken off. And we got to make it so we can do that. But I already have, going into this for the meeting, I had $50,000 a year, and I really think that we can get way over $100,000 a year of pledges outside of the donations that have already come in. Again, we've had some great people, and you guys have done an amazing job. And but just from area business people, and different levels will make the levels with regards to and acknowledge everybody, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have anybody that that you'd like for me to contact, I have cards. Get in touch with me, and Dick and I can do that. And we'd love to partner with you. If you know somebody, if you know them and I don't know them, it'd be great to have a meeting with us, with everybody there. This is going to be critically important to our success.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
What were you thinking for the levels, or do you have any in mind?
I think there's a level. I think we have levels of. I think for the 5-year thing, $100,000 up and up. And then you have $50,000 and up, and then 25 or 30. And it depends on that. We've got some people that I think are going to donate well. So I'm really hoping those levels. And then the biggest question is, what's the lower level? When is it differentiated between two people? Just, hey, I'm going to help out. I'm going to donate. We have giving things. What is the lowest level of giving? $5,000 a year for 5 years, 25,000. Are we going to go down to 10 or 5,000 or $1,000 a year for 5 years? So that's something I'm open to, and I'd love to hear your input.
Well, just curious, yeah. I mean, do you think we would have a lot more people, just numbers wise, donating at a level like that, for example, that would be at the end very helpful for the PACC, you know what I'm saying, and to be considered on the
You mean that $1,000
Yeah.
a year? Yeah, exactly right.
I mean,
So
if there's a lot of those,
should be there a $5,000. And that would be a big thing to people. And and again, you're getting recognized, and $5,000 is a lot of money. And so I think that would be a great one on that. I think that, as I initially thought about this, $5,000 was what I was thinking, is that lower, $1,000 a year, 5 years.
I've seen on walls in different places, and I can't remember where I just saw this the other day, where they do it by, it's like a tree tier thing, and like the $100,000 ones are at the top, and they actually had classifications for them, like your diamond, whatever.
Would have that,
and
exactly.
they had it, and it was always listed as, and that's a good way. And you could go down to $1,000 that way, and then you still got your high donors and.
Right. And we can make it like a tree,
Yeah.
you know, with that first plaque up higher and then you come down. from
Yeah,
that. That
yeah,
would be
it was
good.
just, I mean,
Yeah.
that was just the way I think this one was set
Yeah,
up. But
and
I've
they would
seen them
have
in-
the diamond and platinum and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think it was Katahdin Valley where I saw that on the wall.
Cotton Valley Health has it.
Yeah, they had that.
Yeah. If you just Google like founder walls, there's
Yeah.
so many amazing
Yeah, so you can do
ideas.
something like that, and then you can do a tier thing, and you go down to your $1,000 or $500 even, you know.
So what about for like families that want to donate, they want to be considered a founder for this new organization that's hopefully going to be around for a long time, but they can't do $1,000. Is there something that you could do to recognize this family that says, I want to be considered a founder, I want to get my name on the wall, but I can only give $100?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm open to listening to what's that lower tier. Is $5,000 that lower tier, or do we want to have the base of this tree be, you know, a big base and have a lot of people that can only do $500, okay, and $100 a year type of thing. What is? I'm open to you guys. What is that lowest amount? You know, because we have just wall space too. And,
Right, that was gonna be my next comment.
yeah, well, yeah. A lot of times you
You know,
can't.
maybe you have a banner with donors that hang somewhere across from the founder's
Right.
wall or something that.
Yeah.
that
Exactly
lists
right.
respond.
I think that's really important to me coming into this is that we like having donors is like incredible and awesome and like being able to change them and move them. Like, I think that's super, super important. Then also bringing that founders portion in, like you want to be on this wall right here. This is your shot and you are
Right. I
here
think
until this
that's-
doesn't exist
right,
anymore.
Yeah.
And
Right,
if
and that's
if we do fish, like the big sharks and the whales up at the top are the big donors, and then at the bottom you've got the little schools of fish that everybody pays $25 for,
Right.
or whatever that dollar amount.
Does it help to think of the founder's wall as a sustainers wall? Therefore, it's not just the one-time 5-year commitment, but we're looking
Right.
into the future, 10 years from now.
Right.
If the sustainers wall is being updated consistently,
Right.
that may be different from
And
the founder's wall, which is a one-time donation. If you get in on the sustainers wall initially, you end up on the founder's wall that doesn't change. And
Yeah.
that's where we come up with a tier for individual families who do give once.
Yep.
But then the sustainers wall is our consistent large donor. You know, these people are going into contracts.
Yeah, are we doing this for the founders wall for the first 5 years? But my thinking is that doesn't end in 5 years. You know,
Right.
we're gonna we does the founders wall just keep going as saying the founders wall, and people that drop off the founders wall just drop off the founders wall, and people that go onto the founders wall then go onto the founders wall. Do we then need to change the name of it?
Yeah.
Right? After 5 years, do we need to take the sustainers wall? So we could have the founders wall to recognize people that are going to get this thing going. After 5 years, the same people can be on the sustainers wall. Then we just change the name.
Right. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is, a semantic thing,
Yeah,
but it does
right.
help kind of
No,
figuring out
I think it
the
matters.
levels and
Right.
is this something where we are inviting individual families to give
And that's-
smaller,
Right.
So I'm thinking like my vision is like the founders wall is like what's happening right now. And then the banner program kind of leads into that, like, so every year you do these donations, so you get either different size banners or however that works. That's what they do with the PCIA, they make super good money on it. So like, Dave's World has the Zamboni. He pays $11,000 a year to have the Zamboni wrapped. I have a sign up on the wall. I paid $7,000 for 3 years right next to the scoreboard. And then I paid like $200 for 3 years to have the stair treads. So like there's levels, and like you can pay $65 a year and have your name on one of the little like skate helpers.
Right.
So we can do that same idea for the sustainability, I think. But I think the founders wall is that opportunity to memorialize your kids, your family, your business, someone that's passed, whatever. I think they're two separate things.
Right.
I'd like to add to that. I think it's important that we get the community in large to understand that nonprofits are just that. They're not a business that once you get them up and going, usually can sustain themselves. And if you look at any of the half a dozen major nonprofit organizations in this area, they all require regular year in, year out contributions just to survive. And what we found in the days when we were raising money to build the Y, there was a lot of enthusiasm, both amongst businesses and individuals. But after we built it, and then we're asking for additional contributions, some people and some businesses that said, well, wait a minute, look at it, you got this great new building. How come you need more money? They just really didn't understand that nonprofits need continuous, perpetual support. And it's a philosophy that you want to build. It doesn't matter as much how much you give. People decide how much they can afford to give. That's their personal business. But if they understand that everybody has to pitch in something, if our good organizations that are legitimate nonprofits are going to survive. And I think that was a surprise to me that people would, after we built the building and opened it up and everybody loved it, there were a reasonable number of people who said, well, I don't need to give anymore.
Right. That makes sense.
So let's have this, if it's okay, well, again, with the group, I'd like to try to go for the bigger right now, the founders group, because once we get going, I'd really like to have that number. And then we can continue in terms of exactly right, sustaining and families and have recognition. We always need to have that recognition.
Yep.
So, but what I'm actually looking at right now is a founders that are the bigger.
Agreed.
The idea of the founders wall is if they go on that, they're 5 year, they're going to do a 5 year donation, which is separate. So let's do two. We'll do two separate things. That's what I'm getting here. Number one, you go with the founders wall. We got to come up with a price that we want to go with. Do we want to go down to 1,000 or where it is, the founders wall? Do we want to keep it up at 5,000? And then the $1,000 ones can be done later. You mean, in my eyes, it's a big commitment for someone to make that. So they do deserve to be separated and off to the side. And if they're going to make that kind of commitment, I mean, do we want to hold them at 5,000 and then plan on the other one being start the top tier, the other one maybe at $1,000?
Yeah, let's call it something different.
Yeah, call it
And
something
with
completely different. Have two
to have the
separate things.
base of the founders wall be $1,000 a year for 5 years, and then let's again. There's a lot of people already that are donating. Just it's amazing to see the. I don't want to have in any way people thinking, hey, I'm not being recognized, right? But the founders wall probably needs to be that the more, and then we just need to recognize people and have different things.
So, but with that, how do we deal with the people that just donated a bunch of money for us to just get this initially started? They've got to have major recognition because I know some people that have dumped a lot of money into this, shockingly, and they need to be
right
there as well. So I don't know how we do
I think if it fits the tier of that founders wall, you incorporate them into that founders wall.
Agreed.
You got a founder.
Agreed.
Right. So we had like Speedway, which was tremendous contribution of the 25,000. They are ongoing people in this area, and they're ongoing people that are going to be important to us in something else we're doing. And so it's an opportunity for us to go to Speedway and say, hey, this was amazing. Would you like to be on the wall
Absolutely
at 25,000, or would you like to be on the wall at 100,000? Right. So that's an opportunity for them to say, oh yeah, I want to be part of this, not only now, but in the future.
I agree.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to recognize not only money and amounts of money that are given, but human contributions. It is the human energy of your board here. People like you are making a huge contribution by getting up on Sunday morning, coming to a meeting, and this is the kind of stuff that is absolutely necessary for the existence of a nonprofit. And although I haven't been on the board for some time at the Y, I think that's one thing that dropped off when they went with Old Town Orono. Is it seems to me the annual fundraising dinner, the auctions, the stuff that used to be an important part. We're sort of assumed that, well, now we're part of Old Town Orono, that maybe is going to be not as important. And I think that you should recognize yourselves and you should recognize others in the community that are contributing human energy, which is the most important energy in the world, because that's the hidden sauce that without which organizations don't thrive.
So another semantic opportunity here. If we have the founder's wall, which is the large sustaining donors that start, we could have something like a champion wall or banner or whatever, where we can acknowledge people who are giving maybe one time, maybe consistently, but more an individual gift, families doing something annually or who have already done it. And we could have a category in there for this, the people who are volunteering, giving their time, giving in kind, things that are not as easily pinpointable. But if we sort of adopt that language now that we've got the founders and the champions, whether we rename it later, it's just something where we can acknowledge to ourselves that we're going to do this, and show that okay, this is one, we've got one, area we're moving forward here and another that will also, whether we rename it or not later, we can also tackle it. So I don't know.
That sounds great. And I think whether I work with just Manda on this or whether there's somebody else that would like to kind of co-work with blending this all together, I'd love to have it. So
Doc, do you want us to make a motion on the limit for the founders wall? Is that something that we need to do, or were you just looking for a discussion on it?
I was looking for discussion, but if you think we should have some type of structure to it, I'd be happy to present to the board the thought of having the $5,000 as the founders board, and then to look to recognize both individual donations and time donations in a different way. And I'd be, again, in the secondary thing, I'd be happy to work with anybody who wants to work on that portion. And so we're tying everything together.
Could we table the vote and then I can do a little bit of homework? Because I go to a lot of places and they have beautiful ideas for, this is our volunteers, this is our top tiers, this is the year they did it. Just to look at things so we're not covering the whole facility.
And the pool area is a huge area, right? Area. So how many banners could you hang from the ceiling for $1,000 donation?
Many.
Exactly. Yep. So many through there. And then again, I'm continuing anyway, and I'm not actually having a tier of down there now anyway. So I'm working up higher than that right now. So I don't need that for another month.
Okay. I think it's important for us to come to the agreement that $5,000 would be the bottom tier, so you can move forward on that, because you're in the middle of this, and I think it's important. That's the founders wall, the sustaining wall, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's important to vote on it today, and then move forward with banners for something else.
I want to hold, because I want to call the Waterville Children's Discovery Museum too, because that's where I got the idea for the founders wall. So I'm not sure what they're doing, because they have the same thing. They have to have donors continually. They have to have big donors. Then they have my little tiny family who I'm on the wall for the rest of my life with both of my kids' names for $300 for each of my kids. So I'd like to wait until the next meeting if everybody's good with that, just so that we can.
I don't think that's going to affect me.
Well, all I was talking about was the price.
Right,
I wasn't talking about anything else.
Right.
Just your price structure where you was. That 5,000 was the cutoff.
Yeah, you can make a motion, Brian. If you want to make a motion.
No, I don't want to go against what but I'm just.
You can all go against me every day.
No. But
that's why I need you.
Yeah, and again, what Brian's saying is, should we have? It doesn't have to be structured any more than saying, okay, for me right now, I'm going to be going out to people, and $5,000 is that founding wall.
And that $5,000 is a 5-year
commitment. It's $1,000.
$25,000.
Right. And I'm at that in a number of different organizations right now. I'm having people go, oh yeah. So that $1,000 actually would be a good one for me right now. Very honestly.
So I just want to say, because I just heard the two of you say something differently.
Yes.
So when you're saying 5,000, you mean 5,000 over 5 years, not 25,000.
Oh, okay.
Right? Is that what you're saying?
So 1,000.
So $1,000 a year for 5 years is
Okay.
the base, is what I'm looking at.
Oh, okay.
In
Yeah.
terms of
Okay, because
going-
I was talking 5,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So that's.
So you want to go with 1,000, all right.
Yeah, so I think there's some small businesses in this community that we can have that base of $1,000 right now, because that gets a lot. I mean, that allows a lot of the base.
You're gonna have a big founders tree, I think. We
Yeah.
know that well. That's my fear.
Well, again, that's that question. So
Well,
then you
that's
can-
okay.
that goes back to his research on what
Right,
does that look like.
so let's table that, okay?
Okay,
And I'm
sure.
not going there right now.
So
Yes,
we're gonna
Coach Steph?
table the founders wall for now. Anybody online got any questions on that? Go ahead.
I just wanted to acknowledge that we also have created space for smaller donations through that membership level. So if you have families that are wanting to donate only like 100 additionally or 200 or whatever that platinum levels looks like, maybe you're pointing them towards, yes, you can in your membership donate an extra amount, and that's a way for them to contribute. It sounded like they get a banner on the wall for that anyways. So that way we're not recreating the wheel and having like a whole bunch of different banners. It's either you're a founder or you can do it through your membership. And that way you're either on the wall or you're getting a banner.
Good point.
Yeah, very good. So let's continue to develop this and we'll work with Amanda and whoever else wants to put in input during the next month. Would that work?
Absolutely. Everybody okay with that? Any more discussion on it?
Well, I'd like to talk about one more thing.
Yep. Good.
And that's Stephanie and Amanda Chu here, is the pool. You know, our pool is a critical part, and we really want to open this as fast as we can. Because of numbers, we've had to go to Old Town for the past few years, including Foxcroft Academy. And so that's an area that would like to work on to start building that base that Dover Foxcroft does so well in terms of its youth programming, you know, and that's through our community center, to build that base so we can start getting that back, so we're not having the academy have to send their kids to Orono Old Town. So that's something that I know people have an interest in, but I think it'd be really good to really focus on that base so we can do that, and then be able to go to Arnold, be able to go to Foxcroft and say, hey, listen, we've got a program and we're going to really focus on it. So our goal is to be able to.
I know we had that discussion at the first meeting, and I think Mr. Greenlaw was nominated to have a cup of coffee with Mr. Sherry and
Again.
This time not, because you were not either.
Jason, have you yet?
No, it was last Tuesday.
Yeah.
I've been on vacation.
Okay.
I think one thing with that is there are some rules around, especially swim teams. So where we're no longer a Y, we're a community center, we would still need a host Y for us to be a satellite of it for the swim team to compete. So there's no league other than the YMCA league. There's
Steph,
main swimming.
We did touch on that at the last
Okay.
meeting, and like I told him that I've been talking with
Okay,
Sean and kind of working with the Bangor Y to be a satellite.
Okay, perfect.
so let me clarify that.
Okay.
Maine Principals Association has nothing to do with high school swim teams?
No, we're
No,
talking
talking
two
about the
separate.
younger
She's
level.
talking, what was the why, the way.
But there's also rules
But
around that
There's
too.
rules, but, and then you have the MPA.
So
Schools.
and YMCA coaches are not allowed to coach high school swimming. So you would have to find another coach, which is why they ended up going to Old Town, because they do not make the MPA looks at the Y as a competing organization. And so if a swimmer can compete in both, but you can't have the same coach coaching both. So there's rules around it. Yep. So if you need me to sit in on that meeting, let me know. Because there's a lot of rules.
There's so many.
So the MPA says if you coach at the Y, you can't coach a high school swimming.
Correct.
Ben, you have any insight on that? I mean, you are a lawyer.
I mean, the whole thing to me, you know, again, you're talking about private companies here. So as long as they're not excluding people based on some sort of protected class situation or whatever, I mean, that's the problem. The Y has essentially been the body. And I don't know this personally, but based on what I've learned from other parents who have kids in the swim programs and everything else, the Y just has always been the organization that runs the youth swimming programs. And so essentially they have been able to set the rules and say, we don't allow anyone to participate unless it is sanctioned through one of our organizations. Now, again, I think there's a lot changing here, and based on what Donna Hathaway was saying about the Y organization in general pushing to close some of these smaller Ys and everything else, who knows? Maybe this is a time where we could push back on that and say, look, you're closing all these smaller Ys, these rural Ys. Now you are excluding these kids who are from economically depressed areas, and that's not right. And you can't do that. And unless you can show that somehow, you are, holding a standard that these kids aren't meeting, then really you can't exclude them. And so again, I realize that's not really an answer, but I think this is something I've been thinking a lot about because it doesn't seem fair. I mean, why should the YMCA organization be able to dictate which kid can and can't have access just based on what facility they're swimming laps at? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't have the answer, but that's something that I am glad to look into a little bit more, and would certainly like to talk to more of the parents who've got some of that in-depth kind of knowledge. I know, Manny, you were talking last time about some of the hoops you've been having to jump through.
Yep.
So that was actually a MPA rule set forward, not the Y in this case, but there is a workaround. It's only for 1 year. They'll grant like an emergency, like they'll allow a coach for like an interim period to be both coaches, but it has a deadline on it. So you can only do it for a year, and then you would have to have another coach.
And that's full years, because I know like with
It
baseball.
might be season. I'm
I
not
think it's
sure.
season.
So you might need to. So in this approach, it would be approaching the MPA versus the Y. The Y would love to have all their coaches also coaching the high school. The problem is that kids were choosing YMCA practices over high school practices, and so they weren't going to their high school practices. The MPA said you have to go to high school practice. So there's also rules that a swimmer can get in trouble if they show up to a Y practice and not high school. They're going to.
Sounds to me like an easy fix. Let the coach both.
Right, which you can't do. So there's again a lot of rules, and in this case, it was the MPA.
And I'm sure it's something similar to
Because in other states,
like a varsity basketball coach can't do anything with open gym 3 months prior to basketball season.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's. I'm anxious to. I'll do some research on it.
Okay.
There might be a timeline there.
There's probably a loophole, but
find
no
it.
one's found it yet. because-
So anybody else on that?
There's no push towards like, what is it, US Swimming, USA?
So
I can talk about that too.
Yeah.
So
she's a pro.
USA Swimming is complicated, but there's Maine Swimming is here in Maine is also all of the YMCA's. So all the YMCA's are also Maine USA Swimming. It's 2 different leagues. It offers more meets, but in Maine we don't have a lot of USA meets because all those swimmers compete in Y meets. We were part of New England Swimming, but that forced our swimmers to have to travel to Massachusetts or beyond for meets, which is just increased the barrier to our swimmers, so they weren't able to do that. So if Bangor can figure that out with Manda and or myself, it sounds like it's hopeful, positive that we can do that. We just have to make sure rules wise where we're not a Y anymore, that we can still be a satellite.
And I think
that would be the best.
And stop me if I'm wrong, but I think the biggest challenge right now is figuring out how we can be that feeder program for FA, but then get FA and MPA coach in the Dover area.
Right.
So,
and if the coach is only coaching the non-high school swimmers of the Y League, they can coach the high school team. So I had an assistant coach who only did like my 13 and unders. and at a different Y. And she was the high school coach because there was no overlap. So if you figure that out,
If we could make that a
so that could be a
facility.
thing, but that means I then lose all my high school kids and they can't swim for me at Y. So,
But if we make a rule, like once you hit high school, you have to swim for high school, but you could still be the high school coach.
right.
Because now you can't swim Y because now you're high school kids.
Mhm.
Could we could make that a facility rule?
Right.
But what
That's
if
an age group.
you're an MSD 41 kid in high school? Like,
Well, I don't know,
years
because
down
yeah,
the
because my
road,
kids
but-
go to Dexter, so.
Right, so like, so
So
does
there's
that,
different
so is that,
pathways, I guess,
right, so does
depending
that
on what
stay,
you want to do.
right, so does, well, my question is, does that, just under that idea?
Yeah,
like,
no, that
you
makes
Have
sense.
to swim for high school.
So could my kids
like-
swim FA in high
They
school?
can, they just can't swim both. That's the,
Okay, so once they hit
can't
ninth
swim
grade,
teen
like
and
you
they
have
can't
to
swim-
swim
they
high
can't swim
school.
teen and Y.
and the
That
other,
might be our loophole.
the other
Yeah,
thing
once
with USA swimming is that we found is there's a cost barrier. So YMCA swimming is free for the meets. USA swimming costs per event and
Mhm.
per meet. And so that was another big barrier for our families. So just something to consider moving forward.
Stephanie, just making sure to, that I'm remembering this correctly
Yeah.
too. If a student swims for FA, they're
Yes.
actually representing their own school district,
Correct,
but joining FA
Correct.
because they don't have
correct.
a team.
The opportunity.
So it's
Yep.
not swimming for people.
Yeah. Go Dexter.
Anything else?
That final thing in terms of, another area that I'm really very interested in, ties into this, is as we have the Piscataquis area, community center, to have this, the whole area, and to really start incorporating the other towns around that. Not, and really emotionally, and functionally. We had some beginning, interactions with Dexter, last year with the swim, program. And I'd like to really see that expand dramatically.
Me too.
And I've already talked to Amanda about that. I've talked to some people in Dexter about that, is that they need leadership. If we've got the leadership, and then bring them in, not as a drain on us, but as an expansion of us, I think it'd be terrific.
I think with the rink, that's probably happening already too, right?
That's huge.
With bringing it outside, so
Right,
it's kind of
Yeah,
already
you know,
here.
Yeah, we're starting to
It's a
breaking
different
down
sport.
some of these generational barriers
Yeah.
of one versus the other to make it the area. And so I think we can be a major part of that.
Yeah, I can say the Milo Brownville kids, like, believe this is their place too, you know,
Well,
and
That's where I
important
was
to them.
just gonna go, is Milo just put out an advertisement for a Milo Brownville Recreation Day.
Yeah.
So maybe you call over and say, hey, look, for
How do we bring it in?
$50,000 a year, we'll come over on your programs.
Same thing with Dexter.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah, I've already
conversation's
been-
already been.
I've already been
made.
asked to do that.
Right.
I think that's,
I had that job
definitely
offer about
on board with that.
15 minutes after the closure.
Is that somebody that- is that somebody
Sangerville's the
that
same
then
way. They're looking
hire
for somebody to run the
Yeah.
programs
Right.
and all that. And I brought that up to them that they ought to come, because what she does in Dexter.
But we,
Yeah.
but if-
So-
if you-
One thing we can't, one thing we can't do is do what we did in Oral Old Times, say, oh, Dover's doing it now for us. We have to include and really expand rather than taking over. And then that psychology has to be.
Yeah, with,
Yeah,
with,
so
The biggest part of
pay me
it
more.
is the
We can pay more.
generational, 1940 floods around the water district. So I don't speak to this.
I had a heads up on that with Milo though, is because we did something with Milo for quite a while. I don't know if you remember it. And Andrew really
And I
brought
think,
the
I really
ball
think we can,
And
especially with this
they
happening
went around
right
and-
now, that our kids are phenomenal.
I don't, that was
And we've got
probably
people that
3
want to
years ago.
volunteer now, which we didn't
They
necessarily have
find
before.
pushback.
So, but I've been pushing for it. We
We'll
have
be
10
all right.
parents volunteered to help us golf, which is unprecedented.
The only thing they've already advertised for it, so I don't know.
We can reach out though.
Definitely worth a
Yep,
conversation.
I'm happy
Yeah,
to
they're,
reach out.
the town rec boards are theoretically joining,
Yes.
and that's the,
So Don McLaughlin was bringing the rec kids.
right,
To
and that was
swim.
Bearcats.
Yeah, that
But
was the
that
Bearcats.
was through the after, so that was through the after school, and I know Brownville rec was sending kids in the summer.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah,
separately.
I've got all those
so-
contacts with them, so
Yeah.
I can reach out. I think that's a smart idea.
Dawn already reached out to me to ask how she could help in any way, so I think that she
Awesome.
would be open.
Yeah, she was signed up for the lifeguard class the night we closed.
She would be a phenomenal asset.
Yeah, she's huge. She used to be a lifeguard and she wanted to do it again. She was
She's
going to get her
great for the
certification
kids.
because Milo Rec couldn't afford to swim for $100 a week. So I told her, I said, if you get your lifeguard and you can come lifeguard during their swim, we could do it for half the money. So she's awesome.
Okay, so I think we've covered the suggestions for the program coordinator.
Yeah.
We'll move on to policies.
So, and this isn't something that necessarily we even have to go down through completely. Just, I have a lot of these that I had to build and I changed and created from when we were the Y. So I'm happy to edit them, but then maybe Ben can look at them to make sure that they're what we actually need, because I don't come from that land, but we needed policies. And as I was rebuilding the childcare program, we didn't have most of them. So I was pulling from different places and like, this works for us, and building these policies that didn't exist. So I don't know if we need a committee to do policies or if everybody's happy with, I can send somebody all the files that I have and somebody else can do it. 'Cause that would be,
I have looked at the policies and procedures she's put in place. I think she has done a phenomenal job. I would recommend her sending them to Ben or another attorney just to look through to ensure everything's covered, and then we can vote on them from there.
I'm happy to look as like editor and
Okay.
just like cold look at it from an operation standpoint.
Perfect.
Like,
So-
is there a question that I have that you haven't covered?
so I will edit them. I will send them to Victoria and then
Yeah.
Ben, are
As long as
you?
Ben's up for that. I didn't mean to volunteer, Ben, sorry.
Nope, not at all. Glad to take a look. And my approach typically with any of this type of stuff is always more eyes is better. Because again, the reality with these documents is there's quite a bit of leeway. So if people have thoughts or people have ideas for things that might really help us by including them now, ideas, it's absolutely worth talking about. You do not need to be a lawyer to just kind of foresee what might be an issue or what might what procedure if someone causes trouble, a staff member or whatever else, or a board member or something, any ideas could potentially lead to really fruitful contribution. So I'm glad to look at it. And then I've also got probably some other resources in the legal world I can circulate it amongst, and anyone else that wants to look at it, I think should absolutely do so.
Thanks, Ben. Everybody good with that? Yep. All right, sewer district must be contacted before any significant water dumping, which Amanda will take care of that when we get ready to fill a pool.
Yep. And so I talked to both the water district and the sewer district. Jason and I are going to attend the water district meeting, asking if they will abate our our 100,000 gallon pool filling. I don't know how that will go. We have a pretty favorable board that's on the water district, so I'm hoping that they will be in our favor for that. But then I get all of our sewage is metered by how much water we're using, and we do not have any separate meters on the building. So trying to get a plumber in there to get a meter that's approved by the districts, because I put about 2 inches of water every week in the pool at least. Sometimes I have to dump a little bit more, and sometimes I have to put a little more in. But having a meter on the pool fill, because most of it evaporates, and having a meter on the outside hose spigot, which I said are like $80 for that one. Because we do water the garden and we have like the big bounce house splash things that we load the kids and stuff like that outside. So I think having those 2 meters installed will help us with our expenses. And the water district was very clear that, because I was like, well, they just dumped it on the lawn. Like, it wasn't like we didn't even have that expense. He's like, he says it's more expensive to pay for the permits to be able to do that, even if you neutralize it. He said, he's like, I have to call and like let them know that you've done that because the pond's right there. I'm like, no, that's fine. I didn't do anything. So
when they were dumping that out that back door.
And they cannot. So the sewer district said that they are prepared to like take our chlorinated water. We don't even have to neutralize it if we need to dump the pool. They just need a phone call so that they know there's 100,000 gallons coming their way. And he said it's cheaper to dump it than pay for the permits. So that was my thought on that. So getting those 2 water meters, I think, will be
Perfect. So you're gonna handle going to the board?
Yep.
Everybody okay with that?
And then the only other thing before, because I think you're at the end.
Yes.
Jason would like a vote in the meeting for approving leadership, which I think would be the executive director for the facility, and then also committee chairs, which I don't know if we've necessarily planned.
So
I move to make Amanda executive director.
motion's been moved and second to make Amanda Stewart executive director of the PACC. Any discussion on that?
Discussion is way beyond what we could have.
Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Come on, there's always gonna be one. Congratulations, man.
And then also committee chairs. The only committees that have met so far are finance and fundraising. Angie is on the finance committee as well as Victoria and Michaela. So I feel like any of those could be the committee chair. And then for fundraising, we have Victoria, Brian, and Michaela also.
Kayla here.
They have responsibilities for the operations board though, correct?
Yes,
Treasurer and
they are the
secretary.
operations board.
So it may make sense, I could throw my name in as finance chair because I don't have another responsibility. I'm happy to not pile on.
I'm all for that.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Victoria, the chairman of the finance committee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Victoria has been named chairman of the finance committee. What was the next one?
Fundraising?
I can do more on the outside than I can on the end.
Who else is on?
I have
This is where people that are not in attendance get elected for positions.
This is gonna.
Kayla, do you have any interest in that? Seems on every other committee.
We could elect her as interim and then the fundraising committee could pick somebody.
Who else did you say was
Wait a
on
minute.
there?
Hang on, let me pull up.
Isn't my wife on the fundraising committee?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Let me pull up just the board.
We can discuss that at the fundraising committee.
Yeah,
When we have the next committee.
I think
say-
it'd be
say
fair to
who
let
that
them
would be the
bring
best
some
way to do
names
it.
back to us.
I
and say,
haven't been to a fundraising meeting yet, so I don't know if I should be elected as chair.
Okay, that's fair. That's
That's
fair.
slacker.
Okay,
So we'll table the fundraising committee until they bring us back a name of somebody that wants to be the chair.
okay.
Right way to do it, instead of throwing somebody directly under the bus.
I also have Jeff Cross on the fundraising committee.
Yes, it's true.
So Amanda, one more question I would like to ask, is the building currently heated? And if it is not, is it winterized? So we're not gonna take over February 1st and have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it back into shape. I think that's a very important question that the transitional team or whoever needs to clarify with Old Town, because I'm telling you, if it's not, and we take over February 1st, we're already in big trouble.
So I talked
One thing I would just chime in on that is the fact that technically they still have possession of the building. It is their responsibility to maintain that in such a way so that the pipes don't burst, they don't end up creating problems with the infrastructure or whatever else. So I think that is a very good point, and it makes a lot of sense for us to make a clear paper trail showing that we're asking that question in the event that someone hasn't done that. But I think, again, at the end of the day, if we walked in February, whenever, and that was the state of things, I think that, Orno Old Town would be absolutely responsible under that situation.
And if we were gonna get in, then we.
Okay, perfect.
And
Excellent.
this is a real estate transaction at this point. And as a real estate agent, I've done commercial and I've done residential, and several of you have bought businesses, So we have our 45 days for due diligence. Whether or not they allow us occupancy is another thing, but during those 45 days, we can do any inspections that we want. Jason asked me for a name of an inspector who I have one in Bangor that'll give us like a 3,000-page report, and he will pull every single thing you can imagine that's wrong there. But he also mentioned that were wanting us to maintain the costs up until, but unless we have possession prior to closing, I don't think that makes sense. If we have possession prior to closing and we sign a rental agreement, that's a whole different thing. But if we don't get possession prior to closing, with that rental agreement, like we can't be responsible for that. It's their responsibility, just like in any other real estate transaction. And once we've done our like our viewing and our walkthroughs with inspectors, they are responsible to keep it in that condition, because when we go for our final walkthrough the day before closing and we go to, and the pipes have burst or the heat's not been on or whatever, you know, somebody stole all the light bulbs since we were in there, they're responsible at closing to take care of that.
Responsibility, nonetheless, we have to insist somehow that we're able to obtain possession of that sufficiently so that we can look, is the heat on?
Well, so that's part of the due diligence. And so we can bring inspectors in, we can request access. Right, and we can request access to go in there every day.
I understand all that. I'm just trying to say for the sake of all this time we put in, come February 1st, here's your building. Oh wait, we can't open for another 3 months.
You gotta go through and file.
Can we do
whatever months later?
So will they allow us to put any sensors that can be put on a network connection to watch temperatures and whatnot?
On the heat zone.
If that could be part of it, I think. And I'm happy, I'm here every day, so I'm happy to go over as long as we have permission to go in and.
Did they fix the front door?
Yeah, oh yes, they fixed the doors, they changed the locks.
Everything closed.
Dr. Sweat.
My conversation with Jason led me to believe that the Old Town Orno group are keeping up the heat and things like that, because one of the things they are requesting compensation for from the endowment is the cost of doing that.
Okay.
But a phone call to Jason would
I think,
settle that.
yeah, I think reading between the lines too, and the things that we've read, that I think they are maintaining that.
I think that's one thing we gotta dot our i's and cross our
Yep.
t's.
Absolutely, definitely.
I agree completely, Mike.
Anything else?
I have
before-
one more question. I know we tabled the mission statement, but is that something you need so that you can move forward to get us?
Nope, it's just another thing on my checklist of like 8 million things to do.
Okay.
So if everybody just looks it over, and then when we have our next meeting, if we can say, yep, this is what we've like, and we can, you know, add to that document, put suggestions in, we can put things out to vote in email like that's, and then when we finally get here, we've got 2 to look at and like, who likes these, we can vote on them. Or everybody can just agree, because I don't really care a whole lot either way. I think it's important if it's awesome, but if it's not awesome, then it just stays in this
I
business
just
plan
didn't
for all
know if you
eternity.
needed that for like your paperwork.
Nope,
to
nope,
get-
that's just part of the business plan and just kind of locking that down, and any changes that needed to happen to the business plan. I think everybody last time was kind of in agreement that the business plan was pretty locked and loaded as it is. I think the mission
Very good.
statement, the vision, and like having those, just the things that we're sharing with the public now. And if you look through the document I sent, I did the mission statement, a vision, and then like some like value, and then the values. And so what that should look like, but making it different from what it was so that we're our own entity. 'Cause I mean, the Y values are pretty awesome, but they've had a lot of really high paying people that have planned that for years and years and years. So of course it is. So now how do we take that and keep our own awesomeness? Not saying it can't change in a year, 5 years, 10 years, but to start out like this is what's important to us. And I think that there's integrity is one of the words that I use, which I think is really important with the transition we're going through, like fiscal responsibility and transparency, and like those things aren't part of those original values, but I think to our community and to our employees that were there, like those are very important values to be sharing.
Anything else, folks? Thanks for coming on this Sunday morning.
I'd like to bring up the fundraising committee. We had a meeting.
When we meet again.
We had
Wednesday.
a meeting, last week, and we've got raffle tickets. If anybody here can sell them
Or buy them.
or buy them, $25 a piece or 5 for $100. We're moving along pretty good on what.
We've deposited $1,250 so far, and we've got another 300 to deposit right now.
So
Yeah.
it's moving forward. We've set up, Will and a couple other people were up to Shaw's this weekend selling them. We're going to be selling them around in other places, but if anybody can just take some books and sell them, the more people we get out there selling them, the better. Vales has got some that they're selling.
I'll be at the PCIA event.
Yeah, she's going up there.
This is for the December.
This is our
Yeah,
calendar.
this is the calendar thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's quite a bunch of prizes on there.
They're awesome.
Also, we were going to talk about doing the dinner, spaghetti dinner, but we come to find out everything is booked. We can't get in anywhere until sometime. So sometime in this, well, after Christmas. So what we're looking at now is maybe in the spring moving forward. I don't remember all the other, we came up with different things to do, but
The
we'll
big
be
thing that
moving
we're gonna-
forward with the fundraising.
the big thing to push for this week at the meeting is Giving Tuesday and having a solid plan for that, because that's, so we've got our Thanksgiving and then Black Friday where everybody's super greedy, and then we have Cyber Monday where you kind of get to be really greedy again, and then you have Giving Tuesday to make up for all of that gluttony. So we're hoping to kind of take advantage of Giving Tuesday with people, and how does that look? Victoria had some really great ideas with that, so I'm going to use her on that. And then if anybody else has ideas for Giving Tuesday, because this is like,
Is that something people can donate to online?
yeah, so I think so. There's a bunch of different options. I found Zephy, which is a free online donation tool for nonprofits. So people can they take the credit card processing fees. They don't take any other fees out of it.
Yeah.
So if people want to donate that way.
And another thing I just thought of, what about like, I know Amazon Smile, where, you know, ours was hooked up to the Center Theater, and I think it probably still is, but I mean, that may be another thing to look into, where everyone making those Amazon purchases is kicking some percentage right to the center.
You probably need your funds.
I was gonna say.
But as soon as we have it,
I'll find
that's
out.
a great thing to do.
Yep, I love that.
Selling go back to the raffle tickets, but selling those, considering we want to involve, the greater Piscataquis County, are we looking at selling, kind of being in stores, going to
Anywhere we can. I just,
Whitney's or
yeah,
whatever,
if anybody
and-
wants to do that, absolutely. I think right now we've got like Will volunteered to work at Shaw's. And then the Piazzas are going to do something this week. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Kevin said we're welcome to go sit at Shaw's again if we want to. So it's who can do it, because I can't.
So it's more. I
Yeah.
just didn't know if there was an actual.
Yeah, because the
plan
stores
to get
themselves
into
aren't
those
selling it.
communities.
Like they're not selling, like Vales has some at the counter that they're selling.
Yeah.
But other than that, like we bring a table and we bring our stuff and we sit, and so it's just volunteers, and I'm overextended.
No, Amanda, I wasn't saying.
No, I hear you.
Because I just, I guess.
Social media wise, you've got it out on.
Yep, and we have Venmo. I opened a Venmo for us, and then Kathy's tying it to the bank account this week, so we'll be able to just deposit it right in there. So even if you've got friends that are from away and they're like, I'll buy a ticket to help support, and then donate it to friends or give it away for Christmas or whatever.
Jason won't be selling it.
Are we capturing those emails?
There.
Are we capturing emails?
On Venmo?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, I got those.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. Just need a motion.
Next meeting?
Next meeting. Does Sundays work good for everybody? Okay. Anybody else?
For myself, this time was okay because I'm on vacation, but normally at 10 o'clock to 11, our family's at church. So if we can either do it earlier or later on in the day, that would be preferred for me, but please don't hold up just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, how about nights of the week that work good? I mean, if we move it into the hockey arena, Jonah and I could be there because we're there every night. So
We can do that. Monday,
Suggestions?
Wednesday, Fridays, we're in Bangor for swim team right now.
Okay.
Thursday nights.
Thursday nights are fine.
I can come back for hockey.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Thursday night works good.
No.
What time are we doing?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Okay. We're not gonna fit everybody's schedule.
Yeah. So Thursday.
Thursday nights obviously won't be this Thursday.
So the
Week from Thursday,
5th,
December 5th.
December 5th. What time?
6:30.
6:30?
6:30 works for everybody?
6:30. I'll put it in the calendar. I think I shared everybody into the PACC calendar. You're gonna see weird stuff for now while I'm like doing my meetings with people, but for the most part, it'll just be for meetings and.
Did I saw your dentist appointment in there?
Excellent, probably.
Kidding.
I want to make one comment. This is the first meeting of all the meetings that I've been to with her that we haven't heard how wonderful she is. So thank you for doing that. Where it needs to be.
Yeah, good job.
I make a
How do
motion
we do here for a job?
adjourn. Motion's been made to adjourn. Then seconded. All in favor?
Thank you all very
Opposed?
much.
You guys doing a great job.